Good day, everyone. I'm going to share with you some reflections on physician eudaimonia. Eudaimonia is a Greek term. The ancient Greeks did not use the term happiness, they used eudaimonia. Within the term eudaimonia are well being, happiness, and very literally, flourishing. We are all in the midst of this global pandemic that has created so much chaos, consternation, crises. So many people have lost their lives. Millions of people have lost their jobs. The future appears uncertain. But as we witness this, we've also seen some amazing acts of heroism. These are the true heroes amongst us. The people working in the hospitals, the doctors, the nurses, the security people, the pharmacists, the janitors, people working in pharmacies, the first responders, people working in grocery stores, people making sure the internet connection is intact. And to all of them, we owe salutations. We owe them an indelible debt of gratitude. I just pray every day that when they return home, they get some decent sleep, decent nutrition, stay hydrated, are able to say, I love you to their loved ones, and in return, feel their love. In many cities across the country in the evening, people open their windows or stand in front of their open doors and strike their pots and pans or ring bells or clap their hands to pay tribute to these true heroes. For the rest of us, there's been some bonus time with canceled travel, meetings, keynotes, rounds in the hospital, and so on. And I think as we reflect on that, we need to see what this incredible human pause has accomplished. Planet Earth is healing. From the city of Amritsar in North India, one can now see the pristine, beautiful peaks of Mount Everest. The holy river Ganges has never been so clean. Yosemite Park looks pristine. The canals in Venice have come to life. There are dolphins swimming in the canals. The cherry blossoms in April of this year in Washington, New York, Massachusetts, New England, were more dazzling than ever. So the planet is healing, and we need to take a cue. The other day I was sitting on my deck, and in the back garden suddenly appeared this magnificent golden brown fox. He looked at me, and I thought he was saying, it's a good thing you humans are taking a pause. Thank you. We appreciate it. And then he scurried away into the backwoods. So I respectfully suggest that we do a number of simple things to recalibrate our lives, to have some meaning and purpose, to have some joy, to be more giving, to lead in exemplary ways. Now, many of us are familiar with the concept of saying an affirmation when you wake up first in the morning and you look at yourself in the mirror and say, today will be a great day. I will achieve a lot. I'll be happy. I will be productive. That has some value, but you know what has even greater value is when you say the affirmation at night as your head hits the pillow. There's neuroscience to back this. During sleep, we consolidate a lot of thoughts. We consolidate memory. There have been brilliant talks about this. There's research to back it. We have an amazing colleague at Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center who gives a talk on this. His research has been published in Nature, in Science. In fact, this December, in our updated internal medicine course, he's going to give a special lecture entitled Sleep on It. But here's the affirmation I recommend. I urge you to write it down, keep it next to your pillow, in your bathroom, maybe on the fridge door. And after a week, you won't need to read it. It'll come to you. The moment you put your head on the pillow, it'll come to you. Very powerful affirmation. I expand with abundance, success, happiness, and love every day, and inspire others to do the same. The inspire others to do the same is not out of pomposity or arrogance. It's simply that it's our duty. If you have a skill or a talent, you must share it. Voltaire, the great French philosopher, once said, every man is guilty of all the good he did not do. So use this affirmation, and I'll predict within a month, your life will change. Nature will support you. Many good things will happen in your life. Your life will be one of abundance, success, happiness, love, and joy. I urge you to watch this TED Talk. This is one of the best TED Talks I've watched. Matt Walker, 2019, Sleep is Your Superpower. Many of us are having difficulty sleeping well during this crisis. Some are having very weird nightmares. Watch this TED Talk. He gives a number of very simple things we can do to sleep well. Number one, have a routine. Try and sleep at the same time every night and wake up same time in the morning. Regardless of whether it's a weekday or a weekend, these days they've all merged. Don't have caffeine after 4 p.m. Eat lightly, your supper. Minimize the amount of alcohol you're going to drink. And then a very interesting observation based on research that the temperature in the room should be somewhat cool. 70 or 72 degrees is not optimal. It's somewhere between 65 and 69 for most of us. If you have difficulty falling asleep, first take a hot shower and then get into bed. Wonderful talk, wonderful research, brilliant, articulate individual. The next morning when you wake up, whether you wake up with an alarm or you wake up spontaneously, don't lounge in bed. Spring out of bed, sing in the shower, stretch, sip your coffee, enjoy the amazing aroma, and set your goals for the day. If you come down from your bedroom upstairs to the den or the kitchen, wear some comfortable clothes. You're not allowed to come in your pajamas. If you do that, you'll tend to be or feel lazy all day. Before you set your goals, after you've had that coffee and stretched, spend 15 to 20 minutes, even 10 minutes in silence, or pray, or meditate. I'm often asked, what's the difference between prayer and meditation? In prayer, we speak to God. In meditation, God speaks to us. It's not a religion. There are many different kinds of meditation. There are many different paths to achieving that goal of happiness, joy, bliss, creativity. The Buddha was once asked, what have you gained from meditation? He replied, nothing. However, let me tell you what I've lost, he said. Anger, anxiety, depression, insecurity, fear of old age, and death. There's some ancient wisdom. It says you should meditate once a day. And if you don't have time to do that, you should meditate twice a day. Now, when you make your goals for the day, you need to have an action plan. Will Rogers famously once said, "A vision without a plan is a hallucination." Now, let's say you've got 7 goals for that day. And most of the time, when I've made my goals and I do them every day, the 6, 7, 8 things are very simple and easy to do. Call my friend Bob Carruthers in Seattle. I haven't talked to him for 6 weeks. Make sure he and his family are okay. How's his golf? Is he playing golf? Number 2, call friend so-and-so and wish her happy birthday. Number 3, order this book from Amazon. My colleague recommended it highly. Number 4, call this couple and see if we can get together on the deck, 8 feet apart. They can bring their own food and drinks. At least we get to see them and connect and shoot the breeze. Now, a number of these things are very quick to do, and you can check them off, check them off, check them off, check them off. You feel, okay, out of the 7 things I was going to do, I've accomplished 6. But the toughest goal that day might have been start a gratitude journal or write for 30 minutes on the new book you're writing, or prepare the talk on such and such, or update your talk on microbiome, man, and medicine. And what happens often is that you do the 6 easy things and never get to the toughest one. Brian Tracy, international best-selling author, has a wonderful book called Eat That Frog, which simply means do the hardest thing first. So start the day. For me, it would be to start the day by writing. And let's say I commit myself to 30 minutes. You know what? Before I know it, I've done 52 minutes. Do the hard things first, and the easy things take care of themselves. So it's very important to have bold and audacious goals, to have an action plan, to have this in writing, and then tackle the toughest goal for that day first. Eat that frog. What about happiness? I've written about this, I've spoken about this, and this is the time when we're talking about eudaimonia, to reflect on the traits of happiness. The first trait is that the happiest people on this planet have a cadre of good friends. Could be your family, could be your chosen family. That's what friends are. Here's a landmark study that is almost 80 years in the making. It's called the Happiness Grant Study, the Happiness Study, the study on adult development. So they took 650 21-year-olds, 250 went to Harvard, the others were from poor parts of Boston, Dorchester, Roxbury. Follow them every year. Detailed questionnaires, physical examination, blood tests, functional MRI, EKG, home visits. A cohort of their children are now being followed in a study. Truly remarkable. 19 of them, as of last year, were alive, aged 91 years of age. What happened to this group? Some became doctors, nurses. Some became CEOs. Some became philanthropists. Some became Skid Row alcoholic derelicts. Some died of suicide. One became our president. John F. Kennedy was in the cohort. And what is the major conclusion of the study? The major conclusion of the study is that loneliness is toxic, and that your satisfaction with relationship with friends at age 50 is a better predictor of health, happiness, and longevity 3 decades later at age 80. Better than what? Your blood pressure, your cholesterol, your CRP, your EKG. So I'm urging the students and fellows and residents and young doctors that I have the privilege of teaching. I know you're busy and you may only have 15 minutes for a visit, but in the last few seconds, ask them what they do to celebrate with friends. Tell them to cherish their friendships, celebrate everything small or big. Point them to this study. You don't have to read the book. This was by a professor of psychiatry, previous principal investigator, Triumph of Experience. But one can watch a wonderful TED Talk given by Robert Waldinger, also a professor of psychiatry, Mass General Hospital, Harvard Medical School. Brilliant TED Talk, What Makes a Good Life? Lessons from the longest study on happiness. He is currently the principal investigator of this study. The second trait for happiness is the ability to forgive. Gandhi once said, "Forgiveness is the attribute of the strong. The weak cannot forgive." To me, the prime example of forgiveness is that of Nelson Mandela, who was in prison for 27 years. It's hard to fathom 27 weeks or months in prison. And when he's released, he's asked a question, "Do you have a resentment, Mr. Mandela, against your white captors?" And he gave the most eloquent answer. He said, "I have no bitterness, I have no resentment. Resentment is like drinking poison and then hoping it will kill your enemies." He also said, "As I walked out the door towards the gate that would lead to my freedom, I knew if I didn't leave my bitterness and hatred behind, I'd still be in prison, the prison of the mind." So anyone listening, if you're holding a grudge against an ex, a boss, a colleague, a sibling, a neighbor, my plea to you, get rid of it. It's only hurting you. And the moment you make that decision, you'll feel this enormous weight come off your shoulders. The Buddha said resentment is like holding a hot coal with the intent of hurtling it at the person who offended you. That person's moved on. Meanwhile, you're burning your hand. The third trait is a derivative from Albert Schweitzer's wonderful saying. He was a physician, theologian, humanitarian, Nobel laureate. And he once said, "I don't know what your destiny will be, but one thing I'm certain of, the ones amongst you who will be truly happy are those who have sought and found how to serve." So I've distilled it into three traits: friends, forgiveness, and for others. But there's a fourth one, and it's gratitude. It's a wonderful anonymous quote: "If you don't know the language of gratitude, you will never be on speaking terms with happiness." A very simple thing we can do every day. Literally takes 2 minutes. At the end of the day, have a journal, call it your gratitude journal, put your name on it, reflect on what transpired during the day. What are 2 or 3 things you're grateful for? And your happiness quotient will go through the roof. There's research to back this. So the 4 keys: friends, forgiveness, for others, and gratitude. Now, happiness is more than the sum total of happy moments. And in order to have sustained happiness, one has to find one's purpose and live it. And I've talked about this in a book I've written, co-authored with Gina Wild, called The 2 Most Important Days: How to Be Happy and Live a Healthier Life. We tell many, many different stories of how people found their purpose in life. If you're fortunate, you've already found it. If not, you'll find it. It'll come to you. Mark Twain most famously once said, "The 2 most important days in your life are the day you're born and the day you find out why." Each one of us has a singular purpose in life. During this global pandemic, I'm reading about so many stories where young, middle-aged, old people have found their purpose in life, found meaning in life. A young lady in a very small closet-like apartment in New York, unable to go to work, unable to step out, reached out to an aunt, 60 years of age, whom she considers a mentor, said, give me some advice. And the aunt said, why don't you mobilize the people in the apartment, connect with them and see if you can help each other out. So anyone who needs their medicines picked from the pharmacy, food delivered to them. So she started that and within a week had raised $60,000, all for good. She's very happy now. She's found some meaning and purpose. Whether this will be lifelong or for a few years remains to be determined. Here you see 5 things on the screen. I should have said, I love you more often. I should have had the courage to pursue my dreams and aspirations. I should have traveled more. I should have been the bigger person and said, I'm sorry. I should have spent more time with my friends. Who says these things? These are people in hospice facing imminent death. Nobody says I should have lived in a bigger mansion. I should have worked 70 hours a week. I should have made more money. I should have belonged to 3 country clubs. So these are the greatest regrets. Let's make sure none of us have these regrets on our deathbed. Even during this time, we can do the first one. We can say, I love you more often. We can have the courage to pursue your dreams and aspirations. You thought of writing a book, giving a TED talk, starting a journal, starting a small company. You can do it. We can't travel right now, very limited, but you can go to public television and watch Rick Steves travel to the most exotic places on this planet. We can do it vicariously. You can be the bigger person and say, I'm sorry. Reflect on what you may have done in the last 10 years to offend somebody. Reach out. Say, I'm sorry. Unqualified apology. Never ruin an apology with an excuse. I'm sorry, but you did that. No, not allowed. I'm sorry. I love you. I hope you'll forgive me. And you can spend more time with friends, either by Zoom or even if they come to your backyard and sit on the deck 8 feet away, bring their own food and drinks. You can look in the eyes and you can have a wonderful time. There's some amazing inspired leadership during this crisis. Here you see 7 leaders from the countries of Germany, Taiwan, New Zealand, Iceland, Finland, Norway, and Denmark. And it's very obvious. They're all women. Women are nurturing. Women are more collaborative. For them to achieve this status and be leaders, they had to be better. I'm convinced of that, than their male counterparts. So a bit of a selection process. Look at New Zealand's leader, Jacinda Ardern. She was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize last year, together with Greta Thunberg. They didn't get it. They will undoubtedly get it next year or in a few years. New Zealand was one of the first countries to get to 0 COVID-19. After the first mass shooting about a year ago by an Australian, she changed the laws in New Zealand regarding guns that are capable of shooting multiple rounds in a few seconds. She passed a budget, she created a budget and got passed, which has a few $billion, small country New Zealand, 5 million population, to address challenges that young people face mentally. She said, now's the time to address it, not when they're 18, 20, older and getting into trouble. So they're investing with psychologists, psychiatrists, parents, teachers, schools. She has recently proposed a 4-day week for everyone in New Zealand. An inspiring, upbeat, uplifting, daring, decisive, compassionate, and gritty leader. This new concept has now emerged about compassionate grit. I'm defining grit as having passion and perseverance for a long-term articulated goal. And compassion is, of course, when we see somebody else's suffering and feel compelled to do something to address it. She embodies compassionate grit. I'm going to close with a wonderful quote by Rumi. He said, "The wound is where the light enters you." Let the light enter our collective wound during this global pandemic. Let us embrace the light. We will undoubtedly emerge stronger, more compassionate, and more resilient. I thank you for your attention and wish you perfect health, lasting happiness, and a lifetime of learning. Thank you.